He's 7'3". He's Italian, and he's visiting the Hoosiers. Darian DeVries, make this thing happen, man.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Well, we got a lot to cover on the show today. It's a basketball-heavy show where there are new rules in college basketball, including a coach's challenge and some momentum moving forward about changing the format on how we play. Plus, DeVries and company, they're on the trail. They've had a couple of days. They're seeing the biggest names in high school recruiting, and we'll talk about why that is important in just a little bit. But maybe the most important, one of the highlights so far, who just kind of appeared, which is pretty hard to believe because he's 7'3" and 240 pounds. He's from Italy. He's Italian, and he is visiting Indiana. His name is Luigi Suigo. Okay, Luigi Suigo, S-U-I-G-O. You've probably at least seen the news by now, and it's time to learn a little bit about this kid. He's 7'3". Yes, that is correct. 7 feet 3 inches, 240 pounds. And he's a really good basketball player. He's played at the 17U and the 18U Italian national teams overseas. Somebody that, yes, has the size, but he's also got the skill set to go with it. And it is confirmed. It's been reported everywhere by now that he will be visiting Indiana coming up in just a couple of weeks. He will be visiting Indiana on June 17th and June 18th. Okay, he is visiting Purdue the day before, and he's already visited Illinois in the past. More on that in just a little bit, but June 17th and June 18th are the days that he is going to be in Bloomington. And this is someone who some schools have been on, and the Hoosiers jumped in, and just like that, you've got a visit lined up for about a week or so from right now when this episode comes out. And so this is big news for Indiana, Darian DeVries, and this entire staff because he's 7'3". We could all use that on a team, right? And for a squad right now that is lacking size, for a squad right now that a lot of you fear is going to be undersized in the Big Ten this year, this would be a nice addition. But some of you may say, well, is he for 2025 or 2026? Because there are some rumors and some conversations about him possibly reclassifying. Let me clear that up with as much as I know as of right now. It was reported that he was going to be playing as a 2026 basketball recruit, not technically high school, but overseas. And we've seen college coaches and programs go to this mode and start going overseas and finding some really, really good players. Okay, that he was going to be a class of 2026 recruit. There were then some rumblings and some rumors that he could possibly reclassify, get the paperwork done, do whatever he's got to do, and play this upcoming season, being considered the 2025 class and play for whichever team he picks this upcoming season, as in like 4 or 5 months from now. The latest that I've heard and seen and been told is that while there was a possibility of him going in 25, it seems like all signs are pointing to him being a 2026 recruit. And so I know some Hoosiers fans might be a little upset by that idea, but I just think that's the smarter move. I think that's probably the more logical thing to do and probably the easier thing to do. I mean, you're talking about some serious paperwork and some serious hoops to jump through to make all of that happen for 2025. And so looks like he's going to be in the class of 2026, which would be Indiana's first commit in that class of 26, which most schools are in that situation as well. But why is he so good? Why is he being recruited by Indiana and Purdue and Illinois and Kentucky and BYU. Why are these big time programs going after a kid other than the fact that he's just really stinking tall? Well, it's because he's just really stinking good. Okay. He has everything that you would want out of somebody with his size. And even more so, he has the things that you think he would lack because of his size. He moves extremely well. He gets up and down the floor really, really good for offense and for defense. You can throw it to him in transition. He's going to catch it. He's going to make the right decision. He can lay it in. He can make the pass. Heck, this dude can put it on the floor. You're not supposed to do that at 7'3". They're supposed to just throw it to you and you tap it into the basket, right? Not this dude. Luigi Suigo can actually create his own sort of offense, which is something that is just so unheard of with a guy his size. And so those things stand out to me. And of course, his blocking game is incredible. His defense is there, of course. It's something that, yes, he holds his ground as a 7'3" player, but he also is in the right spot. And he, from what I can see, doesn't get in a whole lot of foul trouble. There's not going to be a ton of highlights of him getting in foul trouble, but you're playing overseas where they teach a specific brand of basketball and it's execution. It is fundamentals. It is the things that we are lacking, to be quite honest with you, in North America in terms of playing basketball the right way. And so when you look at him, he's just well-rounded, man. He's just kind of got everything that you would want from him. He can shoot it from outside. Believe it or not, he could shoot it from three. Not great, but not terrible. Enough to be a threat. Enough for somebody to have to step out on him. And the fact that he can put it on the floor, get to the basket, and it's not just let me throw it over you and on your head and dunk it. Dude's got finesse around the rim. He's got a little touch, a little kiss with it every now and then. And I think that's what you see in international basketball, which is why so many teams and coaches, like I mentioned earlier, are going this direction. They're going down this path of, hey, there's some pretty good kids over there. They're raw, but they're good. And they play the game the right way. We can teach them what we need to, and we're going to let them just run buck wild. I think that's what could happen with Luigi Suigo, who, again, is going to be on campus at Indiana June 17th and 18th. But he does visit Purdue the day before. That's right. He goes to Purdue on June 16th. Other schools like Kentucky and those folks are trying to get some sort of a visit out of him. He's seen Illinois already. And I know that is scary to hear that Purdue is in on him and going to get a visit as a 7-foot-plus kid who's visiting the Boilermakers. That's where they have made their hay, man. That is where they have been really, really good and put guys in the league. And so should we be worried about it? Yeah, I would say so. Yes. But my goodness, what an opportunity that this is for Darian DeVries, this staff, this team to land somebody like this. Because would he be the first? I don't know. It just kind of depends on when he decides to commit and what's going to happen over these next several weeks and months. But he could be so talented and so good, and he just doesn't have the negatives of somebody his size, because there usually are. He just doesn't have them. And you can make a statement with a commit from a guy like Luigi Suigo, and we'll see how the visit goes with Purdue and then with the Hoosiers. And you can make the argument which one is better, getting it first or getting it last. But when they're squished up together at the same week and back-to-back days, I don't think it matters. I think it's about who can be the best for me and get me to the next level and develop my game the most. And is that going to be Purdue, Indiana, or somewhere else? We'll find out. But the 7'3" Italian, Luigi Suigo, will be on campus in Bloomington June 17th and June 18th. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we continue talking basketball. We continue talking recruiting as Darian DeVries and company have been out and they've been active, seeing some of the best players in high school in the class of 2026. We'll talk about who, and we'll talk about why it's important right after this here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, especially right now with the NBA Finals. The intensity, the buzzer beater, the fans losing their minds like you right here in our state. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience live, and this year's matchups are already delivering. If you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest playoff games like the Finals. Prices on the app actually drop closer to tip-off. And with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. And I've used it for every sort of event: sports, music, comedy, theater, you name it. Me and my family have used it, and there's no better time. Literally, if you are an Indiana fan, a basketball fan in this state, you need to be using Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets by using Game Time. If you download the Game Time app, create an account, and then use the code LOCKEDONCollege, and they're going to give you $20 off your first purchase, okay? Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And as exciting as a 7'3" Italian kid is, there are others that Indiana and head coach Darian DeVries have been going after as well, with June 11th and June 12th are days that coaches and college coaches can go and see kids. And right now, there's some of the biggest tournaments in the country are happening as we speak. And this has been reported by Joe Tipton, by a bunch of other basketball sites and people who cover all these different teams of some of the biggest names in the sport, that the top 100 MBPA camp is happening as we speak. It's been going on yesterday. It's happening again today. It's actually happening tomorrow as well. But yesterday and today were the only 2 days that the coaches could actually get out and see some of these players. And man, the list is ridiculous. There are hundreds of kids that are playing and competing in this big event. But the ones that you need to know are a lot of names that we've talked about before, ones that have Indiana offers and or have Indiana visits coming up as soon as this weekend. Okay, so just working down in order in terms of their ranking. Again, all of these kids that I'm about to say have at least been offered by Indiana. Anthony Thompson, top 10 player overall in the class of 2026. Need to specify that as well. Taylen Kinney, who I think is one of the best players in the class in terms of just his raw talent, scoring ability, and playmaking style that he does. I think Taylen Kinney's incredible. He's a top 15 player in the class of 2025. Cameron Williams is the 15th best player in the class of 2025. And reminder, I use 247's rankings. You can use whichever ones that you would like. Davian Atkins is a top 30 player. Remember, Indiana gave him an offer just a little bit ago. Hoosiers have been checking him out. Latrell Allmond is important because he is a top 50 player in the class of 2025. And he has a visit set up for, checks notes, June 17th and June 18th. Those dates sound familiar, don't they? Those dates sound awful similar to what we just said about Luigi. So they're going to be here at the same time, him and Latrell Allmond. And whether that's coincidence or it was strategic, I have no idea. My guess is it was coincidental, but it works out just fine. So you're going to be able to host a couple of recruits on campus at the same time if you're Darian DeVries and this incredible staff. And then the other name that I want to say is Sammy Jackson. He's a top 100 player. He continues to rise the ranks, and he is actually visiting this weekend, starting tomorrow here on the campus of IU. And so listen to that. That's 2, 4, that's 6 names. And that's not even all that they're looking at. Those are just the ones that I felt are important, the ones that I want to highlight because they hold offers from Indiana. A couple of them have already set up a visit, and the Hoosiers are trying to set up more. And this sounds like it's such a basic idea of, well, yeah, the head coach is out seeing the best players in the country. So what? Well, we haven't always had that. And if they did, it didn't really go all that far because for some reason, I've seen a lot of IU fans who have I don't know, convince themselves that Mike Woodson was a good recruiter, and it's just not true. That we were okay in recruiting, it just didn't pan out on the floor. I just don't buy that, man. This is good recruiting. Getting out and having X amount of players in the top 10, top 20, top 50 in the 2026 class during what is now your, I guess you could say it's truly his first recruiting class, right? As they were trying to scramble and wrap up 25 and then get into 26. But as we all know in recruiting, if you're not 2 or 3 years ahead, then you're behind. And so, and none of these guys, as of this episode, have committed yet. And so it's one thing to go see them. It's another thing to get visits, and it's the final thing to get them to commit. And I think the Hoosiers are going to get some of these guys. And by no means am I saying that we're at the point already of, man, you have to land Thompson, Atkins, Allmond, and Jackson? You have to get them or else your job is done. We're not there. Okay. We're nowhere near that point just yet. But if Indiana does want to compete at the highest level consistently, you do have to start landing some of these guys. And I've been very vocal on this program about how much high school recruiting is so crucial in all sports, yes, but basketball in particular, because you don't have to get 50 of them. You don't have to get 30 of them like you do in football. You can get 2 or 3 and be good to go. You lock down this state once more, well, you take it back and then you lock it down, and then you go and get just a handful of kids that are the best in the country every single year. You can still afford at that point to go and get big time portal additions. I just don't believe that living and dying in the transfer portal in today's era of college basketball is the way to do it. I just don't. I think that's why you've seen some of the biggest names in college basketball from this past year returning for another year. And sure, NIL, revenue sharing, all this crap makes it a lot more enticing. Yes. But man, Indiana's got to have high school recruits, and we just have not had it. And so, can DeVries get it done? Can his staff help him along the way, which I think they are, in sealing some of these big time players like an Anthony Thompson, like a Taylen Kinney, all these players who are here and the ones that we've talked about before? We're going to find out. But you have an opportunity to get some early, build some momentum. And as we always talk about in recruiting, man, it's a domino effect. You get one, you're going to get more. That's how this thing works. With a brand new coach and a brand new place, getting one is getting others. And I think you could do that with so many of these guys that play together too, whether it's their high school teams or their AAU teams, or even in these sorts of events. Like, these guys know each other. And you start bringing in top 10, 15, 30, 40, 50 players in the high school recruiting rankings, and heck, you start bringing in 7-foot Italians as well, it's going to become an attractive place. And so we'll see how all of this goes. You've got a recruit coming in this weekend, couple coming in next weekend, and you hope to keep stacking these as well. And it's just refreshing to see. And hopefully we have some hope. Hopefully there is some excitement and at least some results, because if you don't land any of them, and it doesn't really matter. But if you don't get them all right now, it's okay. You're just rebuilding, laying the groundwork, and trying to make some progress where you can. And I think going to events like this MVPA that DeVries and his staff are at, I think it's a big deal. And I think it's a good sign. It's a good look. It's a fresh face. It's a new start. And Indiana's trying to do that at all levels, but especially in the high school recruiting rankings. And it starts right now with the class of 2026. All right, coming up here on our final segment on at Locked On Hoosiers, major changes to college basketball. Coaches' challenges here. We're also teetering on the idea of quarters and not halves. That's coming up right here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. All right, final segment here on at Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here. Greatly appreciate you and your support. And if you're listening on any of your audio platforms, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, however you listen to the show, make sure that you are following us if that's a thing, subscribing if you can, and most importantly, just have your notifications turned on. That's the best way to know when we post new episodes, if there's breaking news, anything over the weekend. Don't want you to miss any of those. And so make sure you have your notifications turned on. And then you know the drill. Send it to somebody. Send it to someone who doesn't already listen to this show. I would appreciate you doing that. The more, the better. Okay. And then for those of you watching on the YouTube side with the video, you know the drill here too, right? Hit that thumbs up, like that video, tells me, tells YouTube, tells my bosses, which is most important, that you like what we're doing over here. Also, drop your thoughts down in the YouTube comments on Luigi, on the recruits that Darian DeVries is going after, and then the coach or the coaches challenge. Yeah, sorry, brain went dead there for a second. The coaches challenge that is now implemented in college basketball. All your thoughts down in the YouTube comments, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the show. Okay. Rules changes in college basketball. They're here. And the main one that has been highlighted is the fact that the coaches challenge is here. We've seen it at so many levels of the game, especially in the NBA, right? They debuted it with the green light. You turn it on or you'd hit the button or whatever the heck they would do. And it would light up and that would say, hey, I want to challenge. I want to challenge the ruling on the court. Okay. We see it in all these other sports. And so it was only enough time before college basketball had it. And really, when you think about it, it's kind of wild that it took this long. But regardless, it is here. And so the best way that I can describe it is reading a couple of sentences from Jeff Borzello, who does an incredible job. He says that coaches can now challenge at any point in the game out of bounds calls, basket interference and goaltending, and whether a secondary defender was in the restricted arc. Okay, so out of bounds, basket interference / goaltending, and if a secondary defender was in the restricted area. I think that's all great. I think that's needed. I think this is something coaches should have had the power to do long ago. Okay, you have to be able to challenge officials because I respect them. I do. I respect officials. Do I think they're right? No, I think they're wrong more times than not. And the fact that there is absolutely no repercussions for officials at any level for any sport at any country is pretty ridiculous to me. And if there is, please let me know. And so this is just something that gives the coaches a little bit more grasp on what's going on and a little bit more say on how a game plays out. Because how many out of bounds calls or how many of these situations where you see the guy who goes up for the block and his finger goes through the net, which is basket interference, but they didn't see it, so they don't review it, and we move on. We've seen games be lost that way. We've seen literal seasons end, championships won and lost based off of wrong out of bounds calls. But a lot of you are going to be saying and bringing up, well, don't they review out of bounds calls already? What about under 2 minutes? Don't they do it then? Glad you bring that up. That's a good point you made. Listen to this that Borzello says. He goes on in this article to say, quote, while officials, this is for you, while officials can still initiate video reviews on goaltending and restricted arc plays in the final 2 minutes of the game, all right, so they can still look at goaltending in the restricted area in the final 2 minutes, out of bounds reviews can now be initiated by only a coach's challenge. Let me say that again. Out of bounds reviews can now be initiated by only a coach's challenge. What this is trying to do, okay, the whole reason they're doing this is trying to speed up the game of college basketball. You know those 2-hour windows that they put for television that never, ever hit because college basketball takes longer than 2 hours and nobody at any television station, ESPN, NBC, Peacock, when they make us go to that terrible place, or any of these other sites or any of these other channels, CBS, AB, it doesn't matter. None of them have realized that college basketball takes longer than 2 hours. So then the next game has to get thrown onto some streaming website so you can go look at it for 20 minutes and then come back to the main channel and watch the team you were trying to watch. It's exhausting, right? It's exhausting. It's exhausting even thinking about it. What this is trying to do, this new rule, is to speed the game up a little bit. No more of, well, it went out on white, but it could have touched red. Could have. You know what? Let's go to the monitor. Let's go check it out. Come on, everybody. Let's go stand at the monitors and get on TV and talk back to the conference and let's talk to the official on the phone. That's really cool, and we'll see what happens. No more of that. As far as I read it and have looked at this several times now, That's what this says to me. An out of bounds call can only be challenged or can only be reviewed if it is challenged by a head coach. Now, there are stipulations to that, of course. You have to have a challenge in your pocket, a challenge remaining to challenge, duh. But you also have to have a timeout remaining. And I don't love that idea. I don't love the idea of having to have a challenge and a timeout for you to call a challenge, right? The reason is you have to have something to take away if you get it wrong. If you get it right, you get your challenge back, as it should be at every level of every sport. I just don't love the idea that you have to have two things in order to challenge. If you challenge and you get it right, you should get it back. But in my opinion, if you challenge and get it wrong, you just lose the challenge. That's it. You don't get it back. You have nothing else to use for the rest of the game. So this is also going to change a lot of strategy, right? Because you have to hold on to a timeout, or at least you want to hold on to a timeout up to 2 minutes and under. And again, this says out of bounds, even under 2 minutes, as far as I have read it, that even at under 2 minutes, out of bounds calls can't be reviewed unless a coach says, yeah, I want you to look at that. So really fascinating stuff right there. They also changed the flagrant foul stuff as well, to where it says that they changed the flagrant foul rule on plays when a player makes contact to an opponent's groin area. I honestly had forgotten about this. It's either a common foul or flagrant 2 ejection. There was no in between. And we saw several instances of that last year in college basketball. And this article reminded me of some, to where even if it was incidental contact to the groin area, it was either a common foul and nothing, we play on, or flagrant 2, the dude's ejected and we move on. And it's like, what the heck? There's got to be something. Well, they added it in to where you can now get called for a flagrant 1. So that was good. And the final thing is not an official change. It's nothing in the books yet, nothing set in stone, no chisel yet. But there is serious momentum, is the word they keep using, for college basketball to move from 2 halves to 4 quarters. And this just makes sense. Every other level of basketball in every state, every country around the world, men's, women's, children, professional, rec, it doesn't matter. Everybody else plays 4 quarters of basketball. Men's college basketball is the only one that plays 2 20-minute halves. This needs to happen. It just breaks it up. It makes it easier, makes it more enjoyable to take in, makes it more beneficial for the players and the coaches and the fans and the spectators. I mean, that just makes sense. I assume that will happen, but it's not in place yet. But the one you need to know is the coach's challenge, and just be ready. I mean, it's going to take a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months, to start this upcoming season. It starts in 2025. It's going to take a little bit for coaches and officials and fans and media to get used to this idea, but it's much needed, and it should benefit the game of college basketball moving forward. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Lots of basketball covers today, man. If you missed any of our previous episodes, we've talked a lot of basketball here. We actually had a great football recruiting episode yesterday. If you missed that with our Locked On recruiting expert, Brian Smith, so be sure you go and check that out. Again, make sure you're following us on your audio podcasting platforms. You're subscribed to us on the YouTube channel. More to come, okay? So until next time, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.